Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever and whenever you are tuning into our show. Welcome to our latest edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME. As always, I'm joined by the boy Stephen Vesci.
Hi.
The man Stephen Comlow.
Hello.
And we have a special guest tonight. Our resident golf expert Nathan Bursack is here to join us to break down the U.S. Open. As always, I am your host, the coach, Nick Vesci. If you're new to us or just tuning in, here at What Caught My Eye, our goal is to bring you the most captivating, noteworthy, and eye-catching sports stories throughout the sporting world from the last week. And we like to focus most of our time on what's happening on the court, on the pitch, on the field, and kind of highlight the greatness and the great reality show that is sports and competition. So that's kind of our goal here. And if you come away learning something new each week, that is, one of our main objectives as well. As always, follow us on our socials at WCME_sports. It's on Instagram, on X, which was Twitter, also on Facebook. You can go to our website, WCMEsports.com, find all this information and links to watch us, which you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify. Our new episodes drop every Wednesday at noon. Now, without further ado, that takes us to our top catch of the week. And this week, we felt we had to go with the men's U.S. Open in golf. It was you watch it, an amazing, I would say riveting affair, especially that final round was captivating as all get out. It was the 124th playing of the U.S. Open. It was being played at Pinehurst No. 2 in North Carolina. And it was the 25th anniversary of Payne Stewart's famous win, a shot over Phil Mickelson when he had the famous fist bump. And reading about that, just one thing I learned this week, I didn't realize, I knew Payne Stewart died in a plane crash, right? We should all know that. He wore the great knickerbockers, the hat, right? I knew he died in a plane crash. I didn't realize how soon after he won that U.S. Open that he died. It was only 4 months later. It was in the fall that year. So he had like the greatest victory of his career. And then soon after died in a plane crash, which is incredibly tragic. So this was the 25th anniversary of that happening. So it's kind of a special occasion.
The winter of the plane crash.
When?
Yeah, like
it was in the fall of '99.
Oh, so it was his 25th anniversary of the win.
25th anniversary, yeah. So fall of '99. So he won the U.S. Open in 1999. Unfortunately, passed away a few months later, which again is crazy. That blew my mind. I didn't realize how close his victory was to that, which again makes it almost even more tragic that it happened. But a quick recap before we kind of turn things over to Nathan to break it down what we saw out on the golf course and give us some perspective. The winner of this year's tournament was Bryson DeChambeau, captain of Live Golf's Crushers GC, which they won the team title last year. So he's on a pretty good heater in terms of success. It was DeChambeau's second major in his second U.S. Open. He won in 2020 at Winged Foot, and this was kind of a much different setting because if you remember, 2020 was pandemic height, so there was no one at the course. And this time around, he had thousands of screaming fans. We even had our reporter in the field, Pat McGrory, got a close-up picture of DeChambeau going through the crowd with the trophy. So you can check that out on our Instagram. It's an amazing picture. Shout out to Pat for getting that. That's kind of fantastic. Insane that he got that.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep, thanks, Pat. Also give a shout out to AJ, our friend AJ Pittis, our gambling expert. He was also there. Got a couple pictures from him as well. You can see those on our Instagram too. But DeChambeau,
he was there one.
Yep,
following Tiger.
Yep. But DeChambeau had a one-shot victory. He finished at -6, one-shot victory over Rory McIlroy at -5. It was the fourth time Rory's finished at runner-up in a major. This may have been the most heartbreaking, though, because, even though DeChambeau entered the final round with a 3-shot lead, Rory took a 2-shot lead on the back nine, looked poised to just run away with it. Our father, the old man, sitting there watching it for Father's Day with him, was about to be like, this is over. They can't get him. He's mowing people down. He looks fantastic. And I was like, oh, just wait. This ain't over till it's over. And what happened? We watched Rory bogey 3 of the final 4 holes, including 2 par putts he missed with inside 4 feet. And one of those was on the 18th hole, right in front of DeChambeau because they were the second to last group. DeChambeau was able to save par on that 18th hole. He hit a wayward tee shot kind of by the spectator tower, but he wasn't able to get relief because he could still hit and see the hole, but he couldn't. There's no way he could have gotten the ball there. So he, especially where his lie was with the tree behind him, he was able to kind of punch out into the bunker and had a lengthy bunker shot, about 55 yards, that he needed to get up and down from to save par and win. And miraculously, he hit his bunker shot within, I think, 4 feet and putted that par for the victory, which was kind of amazing. Couple stats on DeChambeau's victory. He joined Bobby Jones, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods as the only golfers ever to win the U.S. Amateur and multiple U.S. Opens. So that's a pretty good list to be on. He's also the 23rd golfer all-time to win multiple U.S. Opens, which is a pretty good list to be on. And he, like I said, he's been on close, I wouldn't say heater because Scotty's on a heater, right? But he's done really well the last few years. Like I said, his Live Golf team won the team championship. In the fall, he shot a 58, I believe, at Greenbrier, which was phenomenal. So he's got a win at the U.S. Open. He was second place the last major before this at the PGA at Valhalla. He tied for 6th at the Masters, so all 3 majors this year are top 10s. Last year, he tied 20 U.S. Open and tied 4th at the PGA. So he's done pretty well. He's playing really good golf, and it's kind of nice to see that.
He's
last thing here,
he's the only golfer to beat Scotty twice.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Best in the world? Question mark.
Yeah. So you've got Rory finished second. Then you had Patrick Cantlay and Tony Finau finished tied for third at -4. Good to see Tony Finau, who had been struggling the last couple of years. Good to see him get a top finish. And barring, I think he had a triple bogey in the final round at some point. But without that, he would have been in contention to win. That kind of sapped it, but he still recovered greatly. A tie for third is a fantastic result for him. And Matthew Pavone, the PGA Tour rookie from France, he finished 5th at -3. He's been playing fantastic this year. He won earlier this year. It might have been back-to-back wins or something where he was close to doing back-to-back wins, but he's been great this year as well. And it was nice to see after that last major, the PGA at Valhalla, where everyone shot like 62. Only 8 players finished under par for this tournament at Pinehurst. So couple good things. I'm going to turn it over, start asking some questions of Nathan. First off, Nathan, what's the biggest thing that caught your eye when you were watching this?
I mean, you kind of took all the good stuff from me there. I mean, I think when you break it down, I mean, I think the key takeaway from this week is Bryson kind of showing us that Live isn't just a dog and pony show anymore. It's got some serious competitors out there, and he's showing you right now that he is making a case to be one of the best in the world, even though the official world golf rankings don't recognize Live events. He's truly one of the best in the world right now.
Where would you put him if you were ranking like people in the world? Obviously, we're going to say Scotty's number 1. I think there's no one in the world would question that. But is DeChambeau in that running for number 2? Is he a top 5 player? I think he is. But what do you think? Yeah,
I mean, I think right now they said based on his play this year, he's a top 10 player in the world. The ironic thing is that this win doesn't even get him into the Olympics. He's still like the 6th American in the top 10. So, I mean, you just win the U.S. Open, and then your country basically goes, hey, sorry, you can't come to the Olympics because you got Scotty, Wyndham Clark, Xander, and Colin.
You call it ironic. I call it criminal.
Yeah.
Well,
it's criminal he's not on the Olympic team. He gets snubbed for Ryder Cup, and he gets snubbed for the Olympics.
So I would say the Ryder Cup snub is more egregious because the Olympic one has all these rules. Like they're the top 15 players in the world rankings automatically qualify, but you can't have more than 4 from any country in that top 15. Right. So that basically means that the top 4 Americans make it. Then outside the top 15, no more than 2 from any country can qualify. So basically those top 4 guys in the top 10 that are Americans are going to make it. And there's tons of guys that are going to miss out. Whereas you kind of wind up with some random people like, I know Nathan will know this name, but Rory Sabatini, remember him? Who famously said he could kick the shit out of Tiger or whatever. He was in last Olympics representing Slovakia because he married someone from Slovakia, was able to get their citizenship just to have him get into the Olympics, basically. So you get random things like that. But I think the Ryder Cup snub is more criminal because there's no that many qualifiers for that. You know, it's the top, 6 ranked, and they have all those captain's picks, which one of them should and could have easily gone to Bryson last year. But he was never even in the conversation because of the Live thing, right?
And I think hindsight with that is 2020. I mean, at the time, it was probably the height of all the Live versus PGA Tour hysteria. And you clearly had people that had picked sides. And I don't want to say that it was the wrong pick in the moment, because looking back now, you're like, oh, that was, the worst decision you could have made. But I mean, I would like to believe that Zach Johnson made the pick that he thought was going to best support the team. And when you've got guys that are, going to rally around Justin Thomas and some of the other guys that are buddies there, I mean, I don't think you can fault him for the pick. But now that you look back on it a year later, you're like, wow, how did you leave this guy off the roster? So I think it's definitely warranted that, we look back now and we're like, wow, that's a terrible mistake we made. But in the moment, it was, it's kind of iffy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and one thing, too, that I thought had kind of not been a calling card of DeChambeau over the years was his clutchness. Whereas in recent majors, and especially what we saw on Sunday, he was clutch. Like, clutch as clutch could be. And the biggest example of that was his bunker shot from 55 yards out on 18, which he has said is the best shot of his life. There's even all these things people are digging up where he has said over and over again that a 50 to 60 yard bunker shot is his hardest shot, his worst shot. That's what keeps him up at night. That's the one that he would stress about. So he literally was faced with his biggest fear in the biggest moment and produced. Nathan, walk us through like that shot. Like us schmucks would have no idea how to hit this. What do we do? We're walking up here probably just going to hack. More than likely, we're just going to pick the ball up and move it because we're not going to get out of that. And he puts this thing within 4 feet almost for a tap in. Like, how do you go about hitting that, and what was going through his mind?
Well, I mean, let me put it this way. Think of yourself being in a greenside bunker and then multiply that difficulty by like 100. Like, I know some really good collegiate golfers and amateurs, they probably 9 times out of 10 maybe get it up, maybe don't hit the green. Sorry, I want to make sure I said that right. 9 out of 10, they maybe don't hit the green. I mean, it's just the amount of error that is in that shot between catching the ball too clean and catching it too fat could be anywhere between like 20 to 30 yards. And the fact that he like hit it like the perfect quarter size mark behind the ball. I mean, he used the right club. The vast majority of us are going to pull out our highly lofted club like a lob wedge or whatever it may be and just try to full swing it. And you're going to maybe get it 10 yards. So, I mean, the fact that he has that background of being able to analyze and think through shots at a rate and a manner that the average person doesn't do helps him immensely. And then just like you said, to go out and perform arguably probably one of the hardest shots in golf. I mean, I don't know a single pro that would say, oh, yeah, the 50 to 60 yard bunker shot, like that's my area of expertise. I can stick it within 2 feet every time. I mean, that's impressive, especially on the biggest stage of golf, knowing that he had to make a par.
Yeah, one thing, I don't know if I was watching it wrong, but I thought I noticed this when he went to go hit that shot. He's normally kind of a methodical player. We were just joking about rate of play before we got on here. He was notorious for being one of the slowest players, but it felt like to me he just got up there and hit that shot. Like he didn't take as much time as I thought he would. You would think he would just stress over it because he was really stressing over that shot before. Do you think he didn't stress over the bunker shot as much because he went through all that thinking on the shot before of, hey, this is our plan. I'm just going to execute it. I'm going to go up there and hit it because if I stress over this, I bring all those thoughts in of the errors, whereas if I just focus on what I have to do, I can do it.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know playing it, like you can't think about golf as just like the current shot you're hitting. It's kind of like chess. You've got to think ahead a little bit, like we call it course management. So you're not just getting up on the tee box every single hole and hitting driver if you're really good. If you're really
Says
good,
you.
All right,
rip it.
Yeah. Well, I also have the ability, to hit an iron off the tee every once in a while. So, but like these guys are so calculated in their game plan, like they know before they get to the tee box what club they're hitting, and that's because they've done the math. They've practice rounds, all that stuff. Like he knew probably to within a small margin of error what he needed to do, where he needed to put it, so on and so forth. So. I mean, also you got to think too, like if he's going to sit there and just like think about the shot, like the odds of him hitting a duff out of the rough or the sand, or, just chunking it or sculling it, like just skyrockets exponentially there. So I think his game plan was, all right, I'm in the native area. I don't know how this is going to come out. The goal is that it gets into the bunker. It gets into the bunker. Great. We planned for that. This is the shot. Let's get up and hit it. And whatever happens, happens. And it worked out for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. I love seeing big-time players make big-time plays in big-time situations. And that's pretty much what we saw there at DeChambeau. Now, on the flip side,
comes along. You either define the moment or the moment defines you.
Yes. Thank you, McAvoy. But that does bring us to the flip side of that, though, and that's Rory McIlroy. He, I believe, ended the first round tied for the lead. Like I said, you're watching that final round, you're thinking, okay, he's poised. He looks it. Okay, this has got to be it. And then we watched what essentially boiled down to a meltdown out there. I know it's hard to say that because you're watching them play one of the toughest courses in the world, and anyone could bogey those holes, but it just felt like you're watching deja vu all over again. And this may have been the most brutal of them. He didn't even stay at the end. Second Bryson hit that putt, he was like, F this, I'm out of here. Which on one level is understandable. On another level, you should take your medicine. But I think part of the reason he left was, what question are they going to ask me that's new? They're going to ask me the same question over and over again that I've answered already. Why do I need to stay for this? But, Nathan, what did you see from Rory that maybe could be a positive to take away, as opposed to just looking at the, woe is me negative part of this?
I think he's right there. I mean, if Bryson is the best driver of the golf ball in the world, I think Rory's a close second, if not as good as him. Like, him off the tee is just mesmerizing to watch. The power he generates, the sound that it makes coming off the club face, like, it is different. Him and Bryson are different than anybody on tour in that aspect of their game. Is it a choke job? Is it, the bright lights? Is it just, the way of the game? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys or even I or the average person, if we were given, X amount of shots from a certain distance, we could make par on that course. I know with the Masters, they had that little argument of if you putted, if you started your shots on the green at the Masters and all you had to do was putt, could you still win the Masters? And I think anybody's fooling themselves if they say yes. But I think that's kind of the same case here. I mean, they showed those diagrams all the times of like the green and the true green, where you see just how smaller the green is because of those Turtleback Greens, which I do want to say I mentioned the last time I was on here. But those greens are so diabolical. Like, you've really got to be pinpoint accurate on where you're placing the ball. And if you're not, you pay for it. And I mean, on any other course, it's, he's on the fringe or he's putting. Instead, he's hitting out of a native area or trying to get up and out for par. I think there's a lot of positives to take away. I think just the fact that he put himself in the mix is something to, hang his head up on, because, I mean, we saw with the Masters and his play, last year, that he didn't have it. Like, he wasn't even close to having it. So to see him to be back competing and to make an effort is nice. Would you have liked him to stick around? Absolutely. But I wouldn't want to stick around either if that's how my round ended and I kind of, felt like I choked away a U.S. Open.
Yeah. So where do you think it went wrong for him in that final round, or really more on the back nine? Was it his driving? Was it his putting? Was it his approach shots? Was it short game? Like, what was just decisions on clubs to hit? Like, where do you think it went wrong? Or is it just simply the course or the moment got him?
I mean, if you look at the scorecard, it's his putting, right? Because he three-jacked two of the last four holes. And, one of those was the most costly from inside 2 feet, and he was 496 of 496 up to that point for the year. So that's a real killer. But I really don't know. I mean, those guys are just on a completely different level mentally, that those little things don't bother them. but it very could have been that in this moment he, kind of thought a little bit too much ahead, saying like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to win the U.S. Open for a second time, and I'm going to come back and done it." And he thinks too far ahead, and that slight moment of concentration lapse, he blew it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you think he overthought that last putt on 18? 'Cause that looked slippery than people make it out to be. I mean, that thing moved so far in 3 feet. Do you think he overthought that? Because I feel like he stood over that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not when you know the gravity of the situation? Like
Right.
he knows he has to make par there to at least give himself a chance. You look at his stroke didn't look wobbly. The 3-putt on 16. Yeah, 16. Thank you, Kamlo. His 3-putt on 16, like I went back and looked at his stroke, like it didn't look like he had pulled it, maybe a hair, but I think it was just more the pace. Like he was just trying to be aggressive and, knock it in and move on, and it caught the lip, and the lip slingshotted it around the edge, and he's looking at it like, what the heck just happened? And from there, I'm sure it was probably, I can't believe I missed that. And he's on the next tee box thinking, how did I miss that putt? Puts it in the trap, able to get up and down for par. And he very well could have been on 18 thinking, how did I miss that putt on 16? Yeah. And that's what he was thinking as he's going down the fairway.
So what did you think of the course? I know we talked about the PGA Valhalla kind of, setting records, and you said maybe Valhalla doesn't host a PGA anymore. Pinehurst, I think they call themselves the cradle of American golf, right? Did this course meet the expectations that you had going into this tournament?
Well, before I answer that, I've just been told that my laptop's about to die, so let me grab a charger.
Well, why didn't post? Kamlo, do you have some dead air music for us?
I was reaching for it.
Frank?
Dead air!
I will say, and I know I didn't make it public, so, it's he said, she said at this point, but every year going into a U.S. Open, I really hope that the winning score is as close to even as possible. I think that truly shows you just how tough a U.S. Open should be. When the cut is, what was that? I think it was +5.
+5.
And you have the best player in the world, struggling to just make the cut. I think you did the right job. Turtleback Greens aren't for everybody. Even some of the best ball strikers in the world struggled. Fleetwood, I thought, would do really well, and he did, but, he had that one round that he struggled in. And then if you just have looked at the course since the renovations and redesign, that native area is just absolutely unreal. You have balls that will sit 4 inches off the ground on that wispy hair grass that they were showing on TV every 5 seconds. You've got balls that end up on that lie that Bryson hit on 18. And then you have another Bryson incident where you look like you snap hook a driver into the rough and it kicks through the rough and back out into the fairway. So do you get good breaks? Absolutely. Do you get absolutely horrendous breaks? Absolutely. And then do you hit the perfect shot and you get punished for it? Absolutely. I think those are all the things that a U.S. Open course should do. And it's always kind of nice when everybody who doesn't get to do this for a living gets to see the best in the world struggle. And you get to kind of say, you're human. And when the best player in the world averages 5 birdies a round and he only has 4 all week, it tells you that the USGA is doing something right.
Yeah, wasn't that the first time Scotty didn't post under par in a tournament this year?
Yep, and then round 2 was his first round without a birdie, I think, in 72 holes or 8 holes or 8 rounds or something like that. It was some unreal stat. You're like, the best player in the world didn't make a birdie today, and you look at Neil Shipley, an amateur who probably just finished taking his finals like 2 weeks ago, is the low amateur at like +1. So you're kind of like, dude, Scotty, get it together, bud.
Yeah. I did have just a technical question. when the ball's in the native area, can you ground your club, or is it considered bunker? Okay.
So native area is just like a waste trap. So it's just an area that the course chooses not to maintain. It's no different than like the rough, essentially.
Okay.
And they mentioned on air at some point. I think it was either the first day or the second day, because Rory, Xander, and Scotty were all playing with one another, and they were all in the exact same spot. And I can't think of the hole or the instance, but it was a par 5. They're all trying to hit onto the green, and Scotty and Xander tried to hit up onto the green. They both came up just short. It rolled back into the native area, and then Rory just grounded like a 7-iron and just chipped it all the way across the green. He's like, I'm not making that mistake. So, yeah, I mean, you can do whatever you want in a native area as long as the ball doesn't move.
I like it. How about some other notable people? I know we kind of just talked about the top 5, Cantlay, Finau, and Pavone finishing at the top 5. Anyone else catch your eye that you were like, hey, this guy had a good week. Let's see what he can do in the final major.
Well, first off, all of my picks minus the amateur made the cut, which I was very surprised with. I was totally expecting Sepp Straka to drop the ball on me. But he did have that hole-in-one, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, an ace on 9.
Yeah. You have Oberg, who struggled, which was surprising and kind of a little disappointing. You're rooting for him. Thomas Dietrich is playing some really good golf right now. He was at the top of the leaderboard for the PGA, and now here. And then I think you kind of just scroll down the leaderboard and you see names like Akshay Bhatia, Minwoo Lee, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim. The big names are all there. No Siwoo Kim.
No. It's a thing Stevie and I do. That's not appropriate for the show.
They're big fans of Minwoo.
Huge fans of Minwoo Lee.
He also has a phenomenal social media presence.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think any of those names, and really just any of the names in general that you're used to hearing, I think are names to consider moving forward towards the Open. A little surprising that some of the bigger names, the top guys at the World Golf Rankings, like Max Homa missing the cut, Victor Hovland missing the cut, Justin Rose missing the cut, is shocking. But then you look at it as a U.S. Open, and again, this is a tough test. So you kind of cut them some slack there.
Speaking of missing the cut, there's one storyline that we haven't talked about yet.
I think I might know where you're getting to. I was going to bring that up next for Nathan.
Francesco Molinari.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
He needed an ace on, I think, 9 to make the cut. And who was it? It might have been Brandel who was on the call, was like, well, that's tough for Francesco, missing the cut. You'd have and the dude rolls in. Oh my god, that was so electric. I rewound it and watched it like 4 or 5 times. That was so cool. Could you imagine that?
That's definitely a heartwarming story of the week.
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday be damned. I don't care how he did. I didn't look for his name Saturday or Sunday, but to need a hole-in-one to make the cut and you deliver, it's electric. It's electric. It was awesome. No, that was probably my favorite storyline.
And that's a tough 2-tier green too. So that's a heck of a hole to have a hole-in-one on.
You mentioned Brandel. Who had the worst week, Brandel Chambly or Rory?
Brandel, and it's only getting worse. There's the amount of people on social media calling for that dude's job because of just the sheer outright hate that he was displaying on the caster's call for Bryson is criminal. Absolutely criminal.
What, the people calling for his job or the hate he was?
No, Brandel Chambly was just not showing any love to Bryson whatsoever throughout his round. And he's probably one of 3 golfers that got airtime. We even saw him get a massage on the back 9, and outside of I hope we can get into that in a little bit, but anyways, Brandel was not showing him any love at all. Refused to give him really any credit for his game, and the amount of people on Twitter that caught on and were just lighting him up, telling Golf Network and the PGA to just take this dude's job. I mean, and I don't want the dude to be collecting unemployment, but I will go as far as to say it was unprofessional. I did not like it. I didn't like it one bit.
I will say that is on brand for Brandel's. That's
100%.
on Brandel for him. That's how he has acted and talked about anyone who left the PGA Tour for the last 2 years. That is like maybe the least. That's way less surprising than Rory choking it away, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It did have one other thing, Nathan. I don't know if you saw this. Are you familiar with the name Colin Prater?
I've heard the name, yeah.
So this guy is a high school biology teacher and golf coach in Colorado Springs, and he qualified for this U.S. Open Tin Cup style. Literally did like what you see in the movie Rory McIlroy do, where he goes through all the qualifiers, and he like finished second in some regional qualifier in Oregon and made the U.S. Open. And he is a high school biology teacher and a coach, and he did not finish last. He didn't make the cut. He didn't finish last, though. He was like 1 or 2 shots worse than Phil, which is an amazing achievement for this guy. I think he was like a D2 All-American at some point. So my question to you, Nathan, are we going to see you try to make a run at qualifying for a future U.S. Open?
So I have looked into it. My best friend from high school is the women's golf coach at Christopher Newport. Shout out to Coach John Howard and the lady captains down there.
There you go.
He is a avid U.S. Open qualifier. Every year he signs up for it. And I've had the distinct pleasure of caddying for him a few times.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is, when they say it's the longest day in golf, they're not kidding. But I would love to give it a chance. There are some requirements that you need to have in order to be eligible. And the biggest hurdle right now is the handicap requirement, which is it's like a 1.8 and lower. I am close, but I'm not close enough. And then there's a punishment if you lie and you play poorly. They can potentially ban you or prevent you from signing up for X amount of years. So it's a hell of a story. I mean, shout out to all the teachers out there on the Monday through Friday grind on the driving range after class, trying to get some swings in. But
yeah.
No, it won't be me anytime soon.
What can we do on this show to help you get into the qualifier?
I'll answer for you, Nathan. I don't think we can. You've seen us all play.
So the funny thing is, as you all know, I'm a relatively decent golfer. I'm not mind blowing by any, but I'm not mind blowing by any means. But I can go low if I need to. I can shoot low 70s. For amount as I play, the number of times I practice is this many. So when I don't play well, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have shot that. And it's like, but I don't practice. So like, that's my own fault. And a lot of times I'm turning into the guy that gets out of the car and immediately heads to the first tee. So, yes. So that doesn't help either. I will say I did play Father's Day. Nice. So happy Father's Day, by the way, everybody listening. Belated Father's Day. Got to play my home track of Brambleton, and I did just that. I showed up, rolled out of the car, and shot a 74, and immediately said I couldn't do that again if I tried. So yeah, it's a fun game. I enjoy it. Do I wish I could qualify and participate? Absolutely. I don't make enough birdies. I make way too many doubles and triples, so that's where my score plummets.
Yeah, but you hit the hell out of that ball. Mm-hmm. What's the long drive looking like?
Conservatively, I'm probably like 290. On a good day, it's probably like 310, 315.
That's what the pros do. If they're lucky.
If they're lucky.
Yeah. The downside is that I'm hitting, 2 out of 16 fairways. And I'm losing 6 golf balls around. So, I mean, that's where I get punished.
Hitting fairways overrated, as
speaking of
as DeChambeau showed us on 18.
Long drives.
Absolutely.
John Daly's kid is making his Corn Ferry Tour debut this weekend.
Awesome.
Let's go, baby.
Awesome. I
He
love it.
sent out like a thing that he was like, congratulations, I won't be there, but grip it and rip it, baby.
Yes. Grip it and rip it.
Love it.
And anything else, Nathan, about the U.S. Open before we move on?
Yeah, some fun facts. Bryson's first U.S. Open victory. What was his total score? 6 under. So 6 under seems to be the lucky number for him at U.S. Opens. Xander, T7th, tied for 7th. So he just continues his stellar play in major championships, which we've come to expect from him. Mm-hmm. And then something I heard that I just couldn't stop shaking my head at laughing at. Steven, you mentioned it, the quirkiness of Bryson and the breaks that we get from him. He is such a nut that the way he marks his ball is so that when his putter face hits the ball, it squares a dimple perfectly. And I was like, I can't with this guy. Like, I absolutely
see the salty balls thing he's doing. Did
you see
Epsom?
Yeah, and then the line would drive me crazy. They showed the line on his ball, like on the last round. Like if Titleist is here, the line is like here. It's like, dude, like how does that look good when you're about to hit it? Like it can't matter that much. I'm sorry. And then the last fun fact I have is everybody's talking about the absolute tear that Scotty is on this year, comparing it to Tiger and being Tiger-esque and whatnot. I can't take the credit for this. This was Dan Patrick on the Dan Patrick Show pointed out that if you were to take the tournaments that Tiger won back when he was on his tear, I want to say in the early 2000s, and gave him the purses for this year, Scotty's currently at $24 million. Tiger would be up in like $93 million based on his wins. So yeah, we say he's on a Tiger Woods like tear, but let's all just remember that Tiger's Tiger, and we can all compare ourselves to him, but we will never be him.
Yeah, and Tiger did it he was number one for 13 years straight, or it was something like Scotty Scheffler to catch Tiger's number 1 week record. He would have to be number one for 13 years straight.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous, like 2047. He'd have to be world number one and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be in a retirement home in 2047.
That's incredible. I love it. Yeah, you're right. Let's us forget how good Tiger was, because
so
it was
put out a Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary to help us all remember.
He has a documentary.
I'm sure he had. Yeah,
I'm sure he's got a bunch, but
no, he's got one on HBO, and he had no say in it.
Yeah. I will say, all right, so if that wraps up our stuff on the U.S. Open, we'll move on to our next segment, which we're actually going to kind of change what we're doing here, our order. As you guys who listen know that our last segment is normally our favorites segment, which is where we talk about some specific category and we list our favorites, and maybe our favorite point guards, favorite shooters, favorite golfers we did earlier this year. So we're going to move up our favorites segment to right now, because this week we chose to pick our favorite golf courses. Could be courses that you played before, could be courses that you enjoy watching, whatever it is, it's just your favorite golf courses, and we want to move it up for Nathan, so Nathan can give us his 2 cents and show us up as to, hey, this is what you should be talking about. But we wanted to move that up. Before we get into our list of our favorites for this week, I do want to mention that our favorite segment is sponsored each week by One Legacy Title and Escrow. Visit One Legacy Title and Escrow at onelegacyflorida.com to see how they can help you with your next house closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. Now, this week, our favorites category is our favorite golf courses, like I said. And I want to kick us off on what they put as their favorite courses. Nathan, you want to go?
Last or first?
I personally want to go last. I want to hear what you guys have to say. And then just tear it to shreds and be like, no.
I'll go first. If that sparkles and pleases with the group.
Absolutely.
Yes, go ahead.
Start us off with a bang.
So I actually went with courses that I've played. Okay, because I'd imagine that if I were to pick PGA courses, the list would probably be a little derivative, and I don't think it would be that much different than anybody else's. Okay, so that was kind of my logic there. So favorite golf courses, honorable mention. I'm gonna go with St Andrews in Scotland, provided that it is on the simulator at X Golf. And
hey, it's the toughest course.
And it provided that it's on the simulator at X Golf, and there's a drunk guy lecturing us about how Patty being in the pot bunker makes it the hardest course in the simulator. Stevie, I have it written down. I'm gonna send it to you. So that's my honorable mention. Number 5, I'm going to go with Mattaponi Springs in Bowling Green, Virginia. That is going to be the site of my wedding next year. Awesome track. I look forward to playing it. It's a local course close to where I live. And it's just fantastic facilities. We shoot up there for lunch every now and then. We've played there once, going to be playing there a lot more in the coming months. Free range balls always makes for a classy touch. And they stack them in the pyramid too, so it's legit. So number 5, Mattaponi Springs, Bowling Green, Virginia, and these are all public courses too. I know. Yeah. Go ahead.
So before you move on, you said the pyramid tells you that it's classy. So our hometown classy track of Creighton Farms doesn't do pyramids. Are they not a classy track then?
Well, I feel like when you pay that much money, you can have them arranged in whatever geometrical shape you want.
Well, they just have them in a box now. So.
Oh no! Actually, there's a course by us in Fredericksburg that does the same thing too, like the box with like the little slot on the bottom of it. Yeah,
they're nice boxes, but they don't do pyramids anymore.
You got to keep those puppies organized. Number 4, I'm going to go with a place in Tappahannock, Virginia called Hobbs Hole. I think is
that a euphemism?
No, it is not. I wish. It's a missed opportunity is what it is. But Hobbs Hole in Tappahannock, a beautiful, beautiful course. And it challenges you in the sense that I think the front 9 and the back 9 give you completely different looks. The front 9 is a little more closed off. It's like a little more hallway-esque. And then on the back 9, it really opens up to the point where like a few holes almost kind of give you like a links golf feel. Am I boring you?
Yeah.
Number 3, I'm going to go with Reams Creek out in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes.
That was probably one of the funnest rounds I've played in recent memory. Played there for a certain special somebody's bachelor party. Yeah. that was a really, really beautiful course. And I think if I remember, and it might have been the Birdie Juice talking, I think they even cut some of their fairways, salt and pepper fairways, which was pretty cool to see. Classy touch. Number 2, Royal New Kent down near Colonial Downs, Virginia. That's a fun track. I've only played it once. And when I played it, it was 50 degrees and windy with like 35 miles an hour gusts.
It's supposed to replicate golf in Ireland.
Yeah, it's all part of the experience, honey.
And it 100% replicated, I'm sure, of a golf experience in Ireland. That was a lot of fun. And then number 1, it shouldn't really be a surprise. I worked there for a little while. Creighton Farms Country Club in Leesburg, Virginia. Not a course that is easy to get onto if you're not a member. You need to kind of know somebody or access code to a gate. But it's a wonderful, wonderful course. Jack Nicklaus course. For the longest time, I felt like I was just a really, really awful golfer. But it turns out I'm just an awful golfer, and that's a hard course. So, I saved myself a couple intensifiers. So there's my list. Thank you.
Love it. Boy?
Yeah, I wish we coordinated on this because I have a lot of the ones you have just in different orders.
Nice.
I'm going to start. I don't have an honorable mention this week. I'm going to start with number 5, Royal New Kent in New Kent, Virginia. As I mentioned, it replicates golf in Ireland. And it's also very affordable at Twilight. It's like $65 during the week. Great course to play, very affordable. My favorite of the Richmond area, I guess New Kent, Richmond area courses. Number 4, Creighton Farms in Leesburg. If you're lucky enough to have the connection to go play that course, it's pretty incredible. You're not going to play well, but it's a lot of fun. And look at the houses. The houses on that course are absolutely insane. Number 3, Asheville, North Carolina, Reems Creek. That, like you said, that was the most fun I've ever had playing golf. I'm pretty sure you guys took a wrong turn because you finished an hour after we did. You were right.
We're not starting this dialogue.
I think we should. But also, Reems Creek, apparently, a few years ago, that place was a dump. And then these ladies came in from Florida, bought, I think, the whole place for like $750,000. Completely changed it. It is an absolutely gorgeous course. Right next to the Blue Ridge Parkway down there in Asheville, North Carolina, and just absolutely gorgeous mountain views left and right. Course in great shape, and that's another affordable course. I think that was also like $65 to play.
Yeah.
Number 2, I'm going with places that I've never been to, but would love to go see, and I'm going with Augusta. It's just it's one of the first ones that you settle in, you watch golf, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not really paying too much attention to golf at that point. March Madness is going on. You got a bunch of other different things, and then Augusta hits, and it's absolutely beautiful. Surrounding area of Augusta, not that great, but the course is amazing. Number 1, the drunken fest of the waste management in TPC Scottsdale. How can you not love the 16th, right? It's the 16th par 3 Coliseum hole. How can you not love that and just see these people get absolutely nuts? She got HA on one cheek, sure enough, PPY on the other. It's an absolutely it's electric. And I'll hang up on this on that.
This is golf, not a rock concert.
Go back to your
shanties. Yes.
We've played Stevie. I guess I'm realizing now that after I hear your list, I guess we've played a lot of golf together in the last year.
Yes.
What gave it away?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So my list, I got a couple honorable mentions. First one is Edgewood, Tahoe. That's where they play the American Century Celebrity Classic, the Celebrity Golf Tournament. That's like right on the lake, and they have the one hole where all the boats like are parked right there. It's like a par 3. You know, they have like the basketball hoop where like Steph Curry's shooting hoops. That is a really cool course to watch. It doesn't look like it's that tough, but it's just, you know, a fun thing to look at. And the other honorable mention was Whistling Straits in Wisconsin, I believe. That's a really just like kind of serene, peaceful course to watch, but it is, you know, provides that test. It's hosted several majors, so I thought that was always a cool course to look at. My number 5 is the Plantation course at Kapalua in Hawaii. That's where they play the Century Tournament of Champions. It's the first event each year at like the beginning of January on the PGA Tour. And that course is so cool. I think it has the highest change in elevation of any course on tour. And it's just, you kind of might sit here and be hitting up like this huge, you know, hill overlooking the ocean. Then you might be hitting down a cliff. Like it's got some of the most amazing views I think I've ever seen on a golf course. And they played at the perfect time of year because it's right when it's the coldest here. So you're just watching this beautiful Hawaiian tournament in like the most amazing, like almost looks fake setting. It's so cool in Kapalua. Next I have the old course at St. Andrews. That is a public course. You can go out there and play it. Any of us can go over there and play it. But I believe what they do is you can't reserve a tee time. You show up and they say, all right, you're on the list for today. We'll let you know when you can play if you get picked off the list, basically. And they might call you up and say, hey, your tee time's at 2:20. Get your ass over here. Time to play. So a lot of people will like line up right at the crack of dawn, basically get on the list, take your number like at a deli, and just hang out at the bar, walk around the town until they get that call of, hey, you're up, get on the course. You got 30 minutes or whatever, an hour.
So that's summer. Is that open 24 hours?
You have to have lights.
What do you think? Scotland, where Scotland is, and how high that is up.
Yeah, but the sun still sets at like 10 o'clock.
No. Right.
It's not.
Let's go find.
It's not 24 hours, but tee times go pretty late.
Yeah. No, the sun. I believe Taylor Swift just played a show in Edinburgh, and the sun set at like 10, something like that. So, no, the sun is.
We're about to be at the equinox right now, so let's see.
The sun is not up 24 hours, Jabroni, in Scotland.
It does set at 10:04. 4:24 to 10:04.
Yes. But your point is that you have extended hours that you could play that we're not used to. Like 4 or 5. You
play at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes, exactly. Number 3 is Augusta. All right, the boy kind of brought it up. Augusta is the gold standard when it comes to just grass anywhere. All you could argue in the world, the grass is as good as it'll possibly get. And all those people who are out there who obsess over their yards and love their yards, that they look at that with envy. Like that is the thing. And I think they replace their grass every year too, which is a remarkable achievement that they can get that. It's not like they're regrowing or have years of seed. They're replacing their grass all that often and making it look that pristine. Not to mention, I mean, that is, for people who don't know or follow golf at all, you ask them to name a golf tournament, it's the Masters, right? That's the thing that comes up to everyone's mind. And part of that is that the course lives up to that, beauty and, opulence that you might think of with golf. Pageantry, that's a good one. Number 2 is Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach, we got to drive through one time. Never played it because, even though it is public, it's like probably close to $1,000 to play around. But that is a breathtakingly beautiful course, right? Yeah, over 1,000, right? It is amazing, like how they have those holes that are right on the water where the waves are crashing in. It is, postcard. It's, out of a book, out of a movie. It is amazing. It is one of the few courses that people think of when they think of golf as well, is Pebble Beach. And number 1, which is the reason I wore my shirt, my emblem over here, is TPC Sawgrass in Ponte Vedra, Florida. Got lucky enough to go there 2 years ago for our friends David and Bailey's wedding. And I didn't play the course. David got to. But just going there and seeing it, the drive up with the clubhouse just perched right there and how beautiful and ornate the clubhouse is. Looking out of the clubhouse onto the 18th hole and seeing all of that is just beautiful. And maybe the best part of Sawgrass is they have, I would say, the most iconic hole in the entire world, which is the 17th, that island green, the par 3, which is sometimes illogically difficult. Like you look at it and you say, this shouldn't be that hard. It's just a 100-yard wedge shot. Any guy should do it, but people struggle because there's that mental aspect of sports that gets overlooked. Like it's not a video game simulation, and that swath of water gets in everyone's head, and you see guys hit terrible shots there, and it's crazy. It's amazing. And Sawgrass, I think, there's a reason why I believe the PGA Tour is headquartered in Jacksonville, which is close to Ponte Vedra. And I think it's because TPC Sawgrass is like their staple headline course, in my opinion. It is worth going down there even just to see it. I could post some pictures to our socials later from their wedding where you could see the clubhouse and everything out of it. I mean, it was just so cool walking through the clubhouse. Each winner of the players each year leaves a club in the clubhouse. So I'm walking by and there's Rory McIlroy's 3-wood sitting there next to Justin Thomas's 7-iron. And there's this whole line of all these greats and just one of the clubs they used during their winning week is kind of cool. So Sawgrass, that's my number 1.
Nice.
Nathan?
I got to say, I'm very impressed with those lists. Those are some pretty solid lists from you all.
Thank you.
I'm going in a completely different route. Mine is kind of based on golf architecture. I have been lucky enough to play some of these courses. I'm probably going to have a hot take or two here in this segment, but these are my opinions and I'm entitled to them. So I'm just saying I might rub some people the wrong way here. So my honorable mentions, I have Augusta, obviously gold standard. I mean, the mythos and the urban legends and all the stuff that goes with it. Just
Mythos,
adds.
nice.
Yeah,
Good
I'm trying to
word.
be
English
like the
teacher.
coach. I'm trying to be the coach down there with all of his vocabulary. Um,
I'm a wordsmith.
just the stuff you hear about that place is unreal. And then for those of you listening who still have not done your master's application, you've got 4 days to get that turned in. June 22nd is your last day. This is your reminder. Next up, honorable mention, hometown course used to host a nice little tournament called the Booz Allen Hamilton Classic, where I got to witness Ben Crane and Rory Sabatini argue over rate of play. Congressional, the blue course. This was before they did the renovations and rerouted it. But those finishing holes are pretty spectacular with the pond there at the back and the par three leading off the back nine. And then lastly, a little Muni honorable mention outside of Golden, Colorado, Fossil Trace. I've never played it. It is on my bucket list, but their claim to fame is they actually have dinosaur fossils on the course that are visible. They dug it out of the canyon, and as they were digging, they found these fossils. They left the fossils where they were, and they built a golf course around it, and it's pretty spectacular. Cool. And it's like 45 minutes from Denver, so I luckily have a brother-in-law that lives in Denver, so maybe I'll make the trip out there one day and play it. But those are my honorable mentions. At number 5, I played this course back in high school, and just the walk down 18 is absolutely spectacular. Harbortown Golf Links in Hilton Head. Obviously, they have the Heritage there every year. TV does not do it justice. It is a very, very, very tight golf course. I probably hit a house on every single hole, if I remember. But we had a 4 caddy, so we found every single one of them, which was a nice little treat. But that was a pretty neat course when you get to 16, 17, 18, and you open back up onto the waterway there. Number 4, the 5 courses at Bandon Dunes. I could take my pick on any one of them. Steven mentioned the solstice. I played in the summer solstice there, and we played all 4 courses in one day.
Holy.
Yeah. My personal favorite is Old MacDonald. He did not have a farm there. He did have a tree, but that's my favorite. It's got the ghost tree there. It's probably the most iconic tree in all of golf. It is the only tree on the golf course, and it's the only tree left standing after the Great Fire of 1980 in that area. So it's literally just a silhouette of a tree that sits leading into the fairway on the 3rd hole, and it is absolutely majestic. You come over the crest of a hill, and it's just the Pacific Ocean. It's got the link-style courses with the tall grass, and it is the windiest course I've ever played in my life. You just see the grass move because of the wind, and the grass doesn't even look like it comes back up. It just sits there like this, and it's just so windy. Number 3, of course, a lot of people have never heard of, but golf aficionados will know it, Friars Head up in New York. It's a private little club up there. Hasn't really hosted any PGA events. They might have hosted a major back in the day. I couldn't really find anything. I personally like it. It's on Long Island, and it's got a ton of waste area traps like you see at Pinehurst and those courses down south. But it's got the nice little New England feel to it, and it's just absolutely spectacular views of the water with the waste bunkers and stuff like that. And the clubhouse is perched up on top of the hill looking over all the holes. So it's a pretty neat little track. And then number 2, I have Cypress Point, which is basically just Pebble Beach on steroids. You've got the 16th hole, par 3 out onto the water. Absolutely phenomenal golf course, almost nearly impossible to get on. And then number 1, what some people call the Holy Grail.
Where's Cypress Point?
It's out in on the Monterey Peninsula. It's part of that that group of like Spyglass and all of them. It's just the one that's private.
Okay. Very cool.
And then my last one, arguably the Holy Grail of golf, Pine Valley in New Jersey. I don't know what needs to be said about it besides it's probably the one course everybody wants to play besides Augusta, and probably less people have played Pine Valley than Augusta. I have a connection, so hopefully one day I'll get to play it. But it's pretty neat. They've done flyovers and stuff up it. They're hosting a Curtis Cup there. They do a match every year for juniors in that area in the state. It's a pretty special place, but it is about as difficult to get into as Fort Knox.
Yeah, don't they refuse to host a major? Like they just don't want to because they don't want all these people to see their thing, essentially.
Yeah, that, and it's not a major type course. I mean, difficulty, absolutely. But in terms of like spectators, there's no place to watch it. It's not an easy course to walk around like a Pinehurst is. It's in the Pine Barrens. It's got waste areas. It's just not easy to get around. I mean, the 10th hole, you've got to cross a rickety little bridge to get from the tee box to the fairway. So I mean, imagine trying to have Rory and Tiger in the final pairing walk down that rickety bridge, and then Tommy John running after him with his Miller Lite and his painted chest. It's like, yeah, it's not going to go well. So I mean, that's my list. I like I said, went the architecture route. I've kind of moved away from just the exclusivity of it into more of the when you play the route, like what are you going to get enjoyment out of? Are you going to enjoy the views, the layout, stuff like that? So that's kind of how I went about my list.
I love it.
I thought that was a really good list.
Yes, I learned some new stuff, which is what thing I was looking for. So that's going to do it for our favorites segment this week. Like I said, we kind of moved it up in our show. As always, our favorite segment is brought to you by One Legacy Title and Escrow. Visit them at onelegacyflorida.com. See how they can help you with your next closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. Would like to thank our guest, Nathan Bursack, for coming on as our resident golf expert, and breaking down the U.S. Open, teaching us some new stuff about some courses, and providing us with 2 Rory Sabatini references in one show, which is remarkable. But Nathan, thank you for coming on. We always appreciate it. We'll see you next time after the British Open, or the Open Championship now, at Royal Troon, I believe, this year.
Yep.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. And I feel as though I would be doing everybody a disservice if I didn't share my Rory Sabatini story. But yes, he's playing with Ben Crane, and as if you know, Ben Crane is notoriously a slow golfer. Not to his own fault. He just likes to be meticulous and whatnot. He's kind of like, he was like Kevin Na before Kevin Na was, Kevin Na. And that's 3 Kevin Na references there for you. But the old way Congressional was set up, so the new 18th hole comes down the hill. You have the pond in the back. And then you would go to the right of it, and there was an elevated tee box that would take you to the 10th hole, which is a par 3. So you still hit over that pond a second time, but they've rerouted it and whatnot. But just so for context, they finished the 17th hole, and I guess Ben, Mr. Crane, was taking a little bit too long to finish up on 17. So Rory Sabatini, I can't think of his name now. Sabatini gets, a little tizzy, literally just says something like, "I'm leaving," and he just leaves the green as Ben Crane is still finishing out. And he gets up to the tee box, and as Ben Crane is walking up to the tee box, somebody goes, "Hey guys, it's Ben Crane." And everyone's like, "Ben Crane!" And they start cheering, and somebody goes, "F Sabatini." And Sabatini just goes, and I can't remember what he does on his tee shot, but I want to say it was poetic that he like hit his tee shot into the water and everybody cheered, or like he hit his onto the green and like Ben Crane hit it inside of his and the place like erupted. But it was like the funniest thing to be a part of, because if you've ever watched around at Congressional, that pond is kind of like a stadium area. You could hear everything from the other side of the pond, which is where we were sitting as this is going down. So you see little Mr. Sabatini pouting as he goes up to the 18th tee box as Ben Crane's on the 17th green. And then as he gets up there, everybody's like, "It's Ben Crane!" And the place just erupts. And it was probably the coolest thing to see as like a little middle schooler just getting into golf. But at the same time, you're like, I don't understand what's happening. I just know that this Ben Crane guy is pretty cool. So that's my Sabatini story. Hopefully he's, calmed down a little bit, but he still rocks those ugly cowboy hats.
I love it.
That's awesome. Great story.
I love it. Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks again, guys, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good, man.
Brother.
Always a pleasure. Again, I'd like to thank our resident golf expert, Nathan Bursack, for coming on. It was a lot of fun. I love it. Can't wait for the next major.
What a guy.
Yes. That'll bring us to our next topic of the show. We'll move on from golf. We'll get to the NBA and the Celtics. If you missed it on Monday, the Boston Celtics wrapped up the championship, defeating the Dallas Mavericks 4-1. It wasn't even that close. It was almost like they threw away Game 4, said, screw it. You guys can get a game, blow us out. We'll come back and show you what's up. But it is the 18th title in franchise history for the Celtics. That breaks a tie with arch rival Lakers for the most all time. When you look at the number of championships, there are really two teams that you can consider the storied franchises of the NBA, and it's Boston and LA. Like the other closest ones are only because of Jordan's Bulls and Steph's Warriors. That's it. There's no one else. And LeBron having those few couple in Miami and Cleveland, like that's it. Like there's outside of that, it's Boston and it's LA for championships. And so this probably stings for Lakers fans because now Boston sits alone with their 18th championship. Jaylen Brown was named Finals MVP. He averaged 20.8 points, 5.4 rebounds, 5 assists in the series. But maybe more importantly, his defense was otherworldly, especially when he was guarding Luka, kind of neutralizing him and anyone else he guarded, shut them down. And I think that might have been the biggest reason he won MVP. I would argue he was their best player this entire playoff. So I think very well deserved for him. The Celtics finished the postseason with a 16-3 record. That's good for the second best playoff record since the NBA moved to this format in 2003, which is all best of 7 series and 16 teams in the playoffs. The best record is the 16-17 Warriors, who went 16-1 in the playoffs. So basically, the only way you're going to grab that record is if you go undefeated, which is like basically impossible. Boston played the most playoff games in the last 8 seasons of any team in an 8-year span without winning a title. So you could argue they were the most due of anyone in the NBA. Tatum and Brown, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they played in 107 playoff games together before winning their first title, which is the most all-time by 2 teammates before claiming your first title. Al Horford, the great Al Horford, he played in 186 career playoff games before he won his title the other night. That's the most playoff games ever before winning your first title. So if you're going to root for anyone, it should have been Al Horford because that's amazing to have him stick it out. And your boy Joe Mazzulla from
West by God, Virginia.
Yes, Joe Mazzulla is the youngest coach at age 35 to win an NBA title since Bill Russell was a player coach for the Celtics 55 years ago. But amazing achievement. Gotta say, probably one of the better teams we've seen in our lifetime, believe it or not, if you break it down, because I think also in the regular season, the Celtics set a record for essentially most blowout victories ever by an NBA team. So they were really a dominant force. They would have their hiccups every so often, just get blown out, but consistently, night over night basis, they were the best team this year. It showed throughout the whole grind of the playoffs, and they come away with the championship, their first one since the Kevin Garnett Anything is Possible 2008 Celtics. Anything to add, boys?
You know who
Congratulations, Boston.
Yeah, congratulations, Boston. You know who's now the longest active droughtless champion, I guess. Most playoff wins that Al Horford set. Most playoff games without a championship. The person now with the longest active streak.
So like Damian Lillard?
No.
Chris Paul?
No. You're close.
James Harden?
Yes.
Yep, I buy that.
I don't think he's gonna get one either. But Al Horford, you mentioned him. He was awesome. Like usually when a guy that in his year 17 that he's playing, usually a guy like that is kind of like ring by association.
Yes.
Typically, he started every game.
He had a lot to do with winning that ring.
He had a ton to do with it. He made big shots, played great defense. Shout out Al Horford, two-time NCAA champ.
Yeah, I mean it's an incredible basketball life. Is really what it is.
Hall of Famer.
Probably not.
It's the Basketball Hall of Fame.
It's the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Championships.
So it's different.
it compiles his career, not
Yes.
just the NBA.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why is he not a Hall of Famer? Basketball Hall of Fame lets anybody in.
It's not entirely true, but you're right. There's not as much criteria that they hold against you. So I could see it with that accomplishment, but
except for Leitner. For some reason, Leitner's not in.
He just wasn't good enough in the pros. You still got to be good in the pros. But yeah, anything else? Kamla, anything catch your eye from this series that you liked? No. Yep.
Yeah, and it's always just a lazy clickbait thing. Like, oh, they didn't beat anybody. We're grasping for straws here to fill our time commitment or time allotment or whatever. But don't know how to comma. But that's there he is. He's back.
Hello.
He's back.
All right.
Oh, you don't have the thing on there. But what I don't know. It just seems like a lazy talk to do that every time. Like, oh, they didn't beat anybody. It's winning the playoffs, winning a championship, a world championship. That's pretty damn difficult. I don't care when it happens, but
yep.
I just love their balance that they had.
No, I mean they were. We talked about when Doug, our resident basketball expert, the great Doug Howard, was on before about the great moves that Boston made to set them up, and two of the biggest were Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. And you saw that pay huge dividends. We're gonna have Doug come on next week to break down what we saw in the finals and also kind of preview the offseason for the NBA, free agency, the draft, and maybe talk a little bit about what we can expect from the upcoming college basketball season in the fall. So we'll talk more about this series. I just, we talk about it. Anytime you win a championship, it's a big deal. It does not matter who you beat, when you beat them, what order. Claiming a championship is incredibly difficult. It's why we play the game. It's why we as fans watch. We watch to see victories. And if you're a Boston Celtics fan, this is incredibly gratifying because you saw the work these guys put in. You guys felt the heartbreak. Like I said, they played the most playoff games ever in the last 8 years without winning a title, right? So, if anyone kind of was going to make it through this grind, in a lot of ways you hoped it was Boston because you wanted to see that culmination of all the effort and the work that you put in and why you do it. Shout out to Brad Stevens, the former Butler coach who was the coach of the Celtics, who took over from Danny Ainge as I think president of basketball operations, something like that. I don't think he's GM, but it's something similar. Who's made some incredible moves, and one of the best ones was promoting Joe Mazzulla when Udoka was fired over like the misconduct stuff. Mazzulla's relatively inexperienced, kind of coming from the end of the bench, and promoting him, and Mazzulla did a great job, right? You can say, oh, well, he's got so much talent. What's he have to do? You still have to manage it and do it correctly, right?
You have to be a leader of men. And
yes.
Being a professional sports coach is different than a college sports coach or a high school coach. When you're a head coach in professional sports, you have to be a leader of men. That's your biggest asset. And Joe Mazzulla is the perfect nut for the playoffs. Like we talked about Kachuk being a perfect psychopath for hockey. Joe Mazzulla is the perfect guy for basketball. I mean, his way of getting his guys to play hard and to play defense the way he does. Like, I love listening to his answers that he gives in press conferences. He's awesome.
Yeah. A few more player shout-outs for Boston. Derek White, we talked about him before. He was fantastic. I mean, defensively, phenomenal defender. But also offensively with his three-point shooting to help stretch the floor, just take pressure off of, Brown and Tatum, knowing that, hey, when I get in trouble, I can kick it out. And White's going to give you a competitive, good shot. I mean, every time. Shout out to him. We brought up Porzingis, who was really didn't play that much because of the injuries, but it was still effective. He's a difference maker out there. Just being out there is a difference maker. Peyton Pritchard, the point guard, he had 2 half-court heaves that just drained them, which were just back breakers, man. Especially when he hit that one Monday night, that was game. It was called game. That was it. It was done. It took everything out of the Dallas. it gave everything to Boston. You kind of felt it and saw it. As we know, you can come back from a 20-some point deficit, but it felt like, no, it ain't happening here. And the last shutout is...
Well, I love the Peyton Pritchard thing. That's not a coincidence that he's making those. That is something they practice and he practices. He looks at Missoula in those situations and basically checks himself in and everyone knows to get him the ball for that shot. That's not just a coincidence. That is a skill.
No, it was awesome. And the last shutout is Sam Hauser from
UVA.
From UVA, Sam Hauser winning his first championship. He was great off the bench as, kind of a 3-and-D role is what they had him playing because, I thought his defense was really good, right? He was a lot of times tasked when they would switch. The Celtics didn't switch a lot. They never switched with Porzingis, but they would switch with Hauser. And he did a good job of just kind of contesting and making Luka work and providing length and keeping Luka in front of him. Even if Luka's going to make a jump shot, he's making a contested shot over you. You're not giving him anything clean. You're not fouling him either, which is big because Luka draws a lot of fouls. So I thought Sam Hauser played a really pivotal role. And I guess last one, Drew Holiday. We should give him some love because his defense on-ball defense is second to none. He gets his second championship. He won in 21 with the Bucks. And that was a pretty under-the-radar move this offseason when the Bucks traded him to Portland and Boston pounced and kind of had Portland flip him over to them. It was a really under-the-radar move that happened this offseason and paid huge dividends. The biggest dividends you can pay because you won a championship. Boston rioted, looked like a positive riot last night, climbing light poles and everything. It looked like a lot of good fun. So congrats to Boston, to the Wahlbergs, Donnie and Mark, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Casey Affleck, the fighter, John Krasinski, Chris Evans, whoever else up there in Boston. Congrats, your cousin from Boston and Sam Adams. Congrats to you for your championship. How do you like them apples?
On a serious note, as we name every Boston actor ever. Goodness gracious.
Kept going. Yeah. That's because I commit.
I was going to say we named almost every Celtic on the team. I think you named every Boston actor. Mm-hmm.
Hey, everyone on a team wins a championship, including the fans.
All right, what I was going to say is I think it's a good question to ask Doug next week. Is how we named every Celtic that was so important on this run, and that team is incredible. How many teams in the past have we been able to name those guys and said had massive impacts? Usually, it's stars that carry you, right?
I think that is a good thing to ask Doug.
Holy, because he would have more insight on it. He's paid way more attention than we have in the past, and knows a lot more. But I think that's something I've noticed.
Yeah. Again, in closing for the NBA for this year, the Boston Celtics win their 18th title in franchise history, which is now the most all-time in the history of the NBA. Moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals, that one has not wrapped up yet. I believe they're playing as we are recording, playing Game 5. The Florida Panthers are up 3 games to 1.
Check there, Kamlo?
I have an update if you guys want it.
All right, give it to us.
The Oilers wrapped up the first period up 1-0 off of a short-handed Connor Brown goal for his second goal of the playoffs. Picked up the second period right where they left off with what the announcers are calling a Bouche bomb. Evan Bouchard rips a shot from the point. It goes off Zach Hyman's leg past Bobrovsky, and about 30 seconds before we transitioned, Connor McDavid ripped a nasty goal.
So it's 3-0?
3-0 right now. A lot of time. We're not even halfway through the game yet. But this is shaping up to look like our game 4 right now.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So I was saying the Panthers are up 3 games to 1. The Panthers went up 3-0. Were a dominant force behind Sergei Bobrovsky, who was putting up all-time numbers in terms of goals given up. Gave up 1 in the first 2 games. Talked about that last week. It looked like this is completely over. They got nothing. Then Game 4 rolls around, and you think, okay, kind of like with the Celtics, right? Okay, we lose this game, whatever. But getting blown out in hockey is a little different than getting blown out in basketball, because basketball, you're kind of, because you score more than 1 point every time you put the ball in the hoop, it's more likely you can get blown out, right? It's easier to put the ball in the hoop than it is to score a goal. So getting blown out in basketball just kind of, okay, what happens? But getting blown out in hockey just doesn't happen like that. There's a lot of things that kind of make you question how this happened. In Game 4, the Oilers completely blew out the Panthers 8-1. Right, 8-1. That the 8 is, for those of you just tuning in and don't know much about hockey, you might go the whole year and not see a single team score 8 goals in a game, right?
Yes.
So 8-1 is amazing, especially because of how Bobrovsky had been playing. It was maybe the most unlikely, result you could think of, and that made you question of what could happen. And as Kamala just gave us an update with, it looks like that is having some residual effect, even though that game happened in Edmonton, the 8-1 blowout. This Game 5, I believe, is in Florida, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're having this kind of carry all the way over. So now this may be cause for concern, because if Edmonton is able to hold on and force a Game 6, that Game 6 is coming back to Edmonton. You've got all the momentum in the world, and you've now kind of exposed it, and it's a whole new series. Being up 3-0 now means nothing, right?
And on top of that, Nick, when Edmonton started going on their tear in Game 4, I think when they made it 4-1, I was like, okay, Florida looks a little flat. Stevie and I were texting, and we agreed, maybe Florida's just kind of, trying to do something special for their fans and offer a gentleman's sweep, cough up an away game to finish it at home. But it's almost like, and they say, you heard it in Shoresy a lot, don't poke the bear. And right in Game 4, Florida looked a little flat. Their forecheck didn't seem to be as effective. It almost makes you wonder if anybody's playing with injuries or what the deal is, because they do not look like the team that stepped onto the ice in Games 1 through 3. They look flat. They look unenergetic, and their top lines aren't producing as much as they were. It's almost like a swap, and it's almost like just like a swap in positions pretty much. Early on we didn't see Edmonton's top lines producing. We didn't see Draisaitl, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins really putting anything up. And they were relying on the deep lines to really try and keep it close. And now Barkov has been quiet, Verhaeghe's been quiet, Sam Bennett has been quiet, and McDavid and Draisaitl are on a tear. They're ripping this team to shreds right now. It's
the ripping and the tearing. Ripping and the tearing.
It looks personal. And Edmonton's team is comprised largely of Canadians, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it is an almost all Canadian roster. And my brother was texting me, telling me that, this Game 5 in Florida, all of these Florida people are actively booing and hissing during the Canadian national anthem. And he said the Edmonton players looked pissed. And I was like, let's see what happens. And sure enough, I checked right before we transitioned. It's not pretty right now. Maurice pulled Bobrovsky after 5 goals, I think, in Game 4. I wonder if he pulls him a little earlier this time to give. It's just one of those things, you don't want your starter to get pieced up, and if you go from being just a solid brick wall, and I said it early on, you can't rely on him to be a brick wall every night, but if you start looking like a Swiss cheese out there, you got to get him out. You have to stop the bleeding somehow, and usually a goalie swap is a good way to motivate people.
If I prefer
talking, Kachuk just netted one.
There's your psycho.
3-1.
They're back. 3-1. So back in the game. This is a turning point right now for Florida.
It needs to be a turning point.
You can't go back to Edmonton getting smoked again.
Yeah.
You have to give something to at least move, build on. You can't just get smoked and try to
If Florida doesn't score the next goal, if Edmonton scores the next goal, the game's over. Right? It'll deflate them and it'll shut the crowd up again. I'd imagine it's probably electric and loud in there.
And
we probably saw a few rats. Yeah, I'm sure a few rats probably got thrown on the ice. But if you're Florida, you have to get the next one.
Yeah, I think if Edmonton gets it, I think we're going 7.
Yeah, I mean it's something to look for. Like you said, boy, I think it's a good lead. Is that if the score holds and we see Edmonton take this away, that something to watch for in this coming week for sports fans is the Game 6 of Edmonton, Florida, if we can get there, because that could be pivotal. We could see a Game 7. We could see a team come back from 3-0 and force a Game 7, which is really rare any sport. So it's something amazing to look at. It's crazy, like you said, kind of the flip of the script of you saw complete and utter dominance. An amazing one game, right? We're acting, it makes it feel like the sky is falling. But that's how quickly things can change, how they can flip on a dime, and how mental sports is. Because there's really no physical reason why Florida shouldn't be pulling the Celtics right now. There's no physical reason for that. It seems like it's all mental. And maybe it's not even just Florida's fault that the mental thing, maybe it's Edmonton's mental flipped, right?
Yeah.
And that something clicked. And just you could see that maybe they now know Bobrovsky's human. Like it's kind of the like when you're facing a pitcher, right, who's mowing people down. Paul Skeens is out there mowing you down, and you can't do anything. He's got no hitter going. It's the 7th, but they pull him because the pitch count or whatever stupid ass reason, and they pull him. As you know, boy, the whole other side rejoices. They don't care who's coming out of the bullpen. They just know it's not him. And that could be kind of, Edmonton's mindset now is that we don't care. Exactly.
Floodgates open and the best 2 players on the ice all of a sudden know they can score.
Yeah. And in contrast to what we saw in the Dallas-Boston series with Dallas having the 2 best players, I would argue that they weren't the 2 best players anymore. They're not the 2, but they looked Kyrie was non-existent. He was not good. But now, like you said, boy, McDavid and Draisaitl are announcing their presence with authority. They're the 2 best players.
Something's clicking because that's 2 shorthanded goals in 2 games for Edmonton, and now we're starting to see productivity in their power play, which has been silent all series.
Yeah.
But, I think just real quick, one storyline that I don't think we've talked about in regards to Edmonton. We've talked a lot about, obviously, like McDavid having the weight of the entire country on his shoulders, wanting to bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada. But I think one storyline that we've neglected or overlooked is the goalie, Skinner. He's homegrown Edmonton. That is, I mean, if you want to talk about, like, that's a guy, like, when was the last time we saw a goalie have a chance at a cup playing for the hometown? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an incredible storyline. So, I mean, as much as I would love to see Florida win because that's my prediction and I just really like vibe with that team, that would be so electric to see just hometown boy brings cup home. And, every player gets a day with the cup when they win it. That'd be so cool to see.
Yeah, I like it. And Skinner's been pretty good. He has. He's someone who's been streaky his whole career. But he is a multiple-time All-Star, and he's shown up, and he hasn't made it me versus Bobrovsky, which I think is the fear that you fall into. Like with a pitching comparison, a lot of times you see someone out there mowing someone down, and you say, it's me versus him, and it's not. It's still you versus the other team as the goalie, and Skinner's been pretty good. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if we can see more hockey, see more playoffs, because this is the last playoffs that we'll have this year until we get to the fall in baseball. So we'll see what happens.
Game 6, if needed, is going to be Friday the 21st at 8 p.m.
All right. I like it. That's going to bring us to our newest segment as we put a wrap on our finals coverage for this week. And our newest segment is called the Mimosa Minute. The Mimosa Minute is sponsored by Maine & Co., the creators of the Modern Mimosa, which I have been trying to prominently display for you in this beautiful, ornate, delicious,
get in there nice and tight.
appetizing looking can. If my light is going to drown it out, the Modern Mimosa by Maine & Co. In our Mimosa Minute, we'll highlight excellence in women's athletics. And so we are really proud to have Main & Co., which is a woman-owned company who has been championing women's athletics since 2020 as our sponsor for this segment. So really happy, really proud to be associated with them. And so we got a couple things we wanted to highlight for you that maybe you missed, maybe haven't seen, but we thought were really cool this past week. The first one I got here for our Mimosa Minute is Lilia Vu, the golfer. She defeated Lexi Thompson and Grace Kim in a playoff. So a 3-person playoff, which is wild, to win the Major, I forget how it's called. I think it's Meyer, LPGA Classic in Belmont, Michigan. So that's kind of cool that she was able to win a 3-person playoff. That is
that's
awesome.
Electric.
Yeah, I think they've all finished their rounds at minus 16. So it wasn't like, you were putzing around. You had to show up, and then you have to keep showing up, essentially in overtime to win. Number 2, I have Gretchen Walsh from UVA. She set a world record in the U.S. Olympic trials for swimming in the 100-meter butterfly. So world record. She qualified for the Olympics. So she'll be representing Team USA when we go to the Olympics. Do you know who the coach is for the women's swimming team in the Olympics?
Phelps.
No, UVA's coach, because UVA has won 4 straight, I believe, natty titles. Yep. So a lot of those girls, believe it or not, are from UVA who will be there. So Gretchen Walsh setting a world record's pretty electric. I think she has multiple world junior records, but I think this is her first, senior world record, which is kind of cool in the 100-meter butterfly. And my number 3 thing I had here is the Chicago Sky versus the Indiana Fever basketball game, which is kind of played up to be Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, was the most watched WNBA game in 23 years. At its peak had 3 million viewers. And this was going on, I think, on Sunday when you had all these other things happening. And, a lot of times rivalries are media generated, right? Because it's a great story. It's conducive to drama, right? So we may be seeing a budding rivalry here, and a lot of it has less to do with maybe their play on the court because the Fever haven't been very good, and more about the dichotomy in their personalities and like the positions they play and how they go about things and what they say, and that kind of creates captivating theater when you watch these things. And that's like I said before, the greatest reality show is sports, and so almost like you're watching this reality show play out. And what's kind of cool too with it is they play different positions, right? So it's not necessarily one person guarding the other. You're watching 2 players who are trying to be the best at their respective positions, doing different things, going at it. And I think that's kind of what's cool about it. So maybe Sky versus Fever turns into, our big WNBA rivalry. And I'd like to point out that Main & Co. and the Modern Mimosa is a major sponsor of the Indiana Fever. They get to be on their Jumbotron. I learned from our friend Scott Griswold, which I thought was really cool.
Good for them, good for us.
Anything else? Boy, did I steal yours?
You stole mine. Yeah, it was.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Thank you, Main & Co.
Yeah. Again, that's been our Mimosa Minute, sponsored by Main & Co. Follow them on Instagram at Maine_Co. That's MAYNE_CO. Visit them at mainsip, MAYNESIP.com to order your modern mimosas today. Be on the lookout because they are going to release some new craft cocktails later this year, some over the summer. And I heard from my inside source, Mr. Scott Hamilton Griswold, that they will be releasing a beer line for those of you who love beer. And that should be coming soon. So Main & Co., proud to have them as sponsors. They've been championing women's athletics again since 2020.
I love their website.
Please enjoy responsibly. Do not consume if you are younger than 21.
Thank you.
Also, lemon drop. Ooh, Irish coffee.
Oh, yeah. Also, I wanted to ask you, boy.
Yeah.
How many ingredients are in the modern mimosa?
How many ingredients? 2. Champagne or Prosecco. Wine
and organic orange juice. That's it. That's all it's in.
Wine,
Yeah. Well, it's sparkling grape wine. I believe last check coming from Italy. Yep.
Nice.
I love it. I actually texted Scott the other day and I was like, man, I just had a couple of these and I was like, these are really good.
Talking. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No smell, no tell.
No smell, no tell. Hennigan's. But yeah, Main & Co. Big shout out. Thanks, guys. Love it. That's going to take us to our next thing. And Kamlo's pumped about this one because this is up his alley of the football, soccer, or calcio in the old language. The European Championships. That's Italian, boy. Calcio.
Yeah, I got that.
The European Championships taking place in Germany kicked off over the weekend. So you had the host Germany in the first game. They routed Scotland to kick off the tournament. They're one of the favorites, even with their aging superstar Toni Kroos. Spain dominated Croatia in their opening match. Kind of crazy, but Croatia's also aging as well. Defending champs Italy, they took care of business against Albania, whose chief export is...
That one got off to a tough start. The Italy game, that got off to a tough start.
Yeah. Albania. Then the betting favorite. Did you know the betting favorite was England? Betting favorite England took down Serbia 1-0 in their opening match. Jude Bellingham is the youngest player. He scored the goal. Youngest player to score a goal at the Euros and at the World Cup. But England, kind of cool thing with them. One of the reasons they're the betting favorite is they have a chance to have 3 guys on their team who will win Player of the Year in 3 of Europe's major divisions or leagues. So you have Bellingham, who's on Real Madrid and La Liga, has a chance to be named Player of the Year. You have Harry Kane, who's now at Bayern, chance to win Player of the Year in the Bundesliga. Then you have Phil Foden of Man City, who's the odds-on favorite to win Player of the Year in the Premier League. So you have those 3 dudes on the roster. But as my soccer expert, Mr. Darius Samuel, has talked to me about, England a lot of times can play and act like the Dallas Cowboys, where you watch them in like lead ups and like in competition, you go, man, these guys are smoking people. Dak to CD, how can these guys lose? Their defense is playing great. And England, and they have all the talent. England does this every tournament, and then something weird happens in like the quarterfinals, and they lose, and Italy goes on and wins. And you're like, what the hell's going on?
It's almost like they're like the New York market of soccer. Like it is just one of the more grueling like soccer media outlets in the world. And we talk about like people like McDavid or the Boston Celtics who feel just like the entire pressure of a region, of a country on their shoulders. That's been England, right?
Yeah.
Oh, a game was invented here. We're supposed to be the best. And it's year after year. How many like stud lineups have we seen in our lifetime underperform? Yes. We saw lineups with Rooney, Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, Terry, and nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Bupkis.
I believe their first major trophy, Kamal, correct me if I'm wrong, I think was the 1966 World Cup, was their last major trophy that they won.
I have no problem believing that.
Which is not like bananas, nuts. Again, like you said, considering the talent, you would think you luck into something at some point when you have this much talent thrown out there. But it hasn't clicked yet. So we wonder maybe this is the year. Like I said, they're the betting favorite. I don't know if I would pick them just because you have so much, history to go on. It says conventional wisdom says maybe stray from that pick. But like we said, they've got as much talent as anyone's going to roll out there.
I got a pick for you.
Yeah, I got one too.
Jesus Christ.
No, my pick for Euro Cup, as it is almost every year, is the Netherlands.
The Dutch.
They have such a solid squad, but we're seeing that solid squad, and nothing against coaches in the past, but their coaching staff historically has been making all the right moves leading up to this tournament, and they're a team that the last couple like World Cups and Euro Cups, they've been close but not quite. Their opening match against Poland, it just made me fall in love with that squad all over again. I got them going the distance and winning Euro Cup this year.
Yeah, I got to be honest, they were one of the teams I was looking at to win. Yeah, probably were going to be my pick as well. And one of the reasons is the aging of some of the other teams, right? Germany kind of has been in flux. They haven't done well last few tournaments, really, and they're kind of doing that. Spain has been in flux. Italy is volatile. They may win a tournament, then not even make it to the knockout rounds of another. They kind of can go either way. And France was the other team, right? For France, and I know Portugal gets brought up, but I don't know. I think Ronaldo becomes a distraction for them, so I think Portugal takes a back seat because of that. But France and the Dutch, and I don't know where they would meet based off of the way the brackets shape up if both win their group. But and I love Virgil van Dijk anchoring the Dutch defense, because I think you need a lockdown defender if you're going to take out an Mbappe in France. And speaking about France, they won their first game against Austria 1-0. But the bigger story was that the aforementioned Mbappe, Kylian Mbappe, who may be the best player in the world right now, he broke his nose. It was kind of gross. He went for a header late in the game, and his whole face slammed into someone's shoulder, and blood just everywhere, But he broke his nose. I think he's going to miss their next match, and you wonder how much this could affect him going forward. Now, luckily for France, like I said, England has all the talent in the world. Well, so does France, right? You're bringing off the bench Olivier Giroud, and he might even be your third best guy. You're coming off the bench to fill a striker void. So you have all the talent there.
So that's the bad
but
news.
It's still Mbappe.
France. So that's the bad news for France, though, is because they are in Group D with the Netherlands. That's their next game. Mm-hmm. So the two teams that everyone would say would probably come out of that group, that matchup for France just became a lot harder if Mbappe is going to miss the game because of his broken nose. But because of and I might be wrong on this, because I obviously, like, Euro Cup isn't something that happens frequently. I think it's every 2 years in between World Cups. So if both of those teams come out, I think it would be the second round of the knockout stage that they would meet if they both win in the first round of knockouts.
Okay, because I know, Euros also does a thing where you can be the third place team in a group in advance. I believe Portugal won 1 year as a third place team coming out of a group, and won the whole Euro. So there's a couple essentially wild cards. So the group winner and the runner up each advance, and then you have to be like one of the couple top third place finishers to advance. So you're right. I don't know how they have the bracket set up. It's kind of wonky. A little bit there, but that could be huge because you don't want to be the runner-up. Conventional wisdom says you don't want to be the runner-up in a group because you normally face a tougher team in your first knockout round match. But you never know, right? You can have some team make a surprise. Like I'm going to bring one up here in a second that can alter things, and that team is going to bring up is Slovakia, right? The Slovaks, they defeated Belgium 1-0. And it's the biggest upset ever at the Euros if you just go based off of world ranking differential. So Belgium is ranked number 3 in the world per FIFA, and Slovakia is ranked number 48 in the world. So that 45 position difference in ranking is the largest ever at for a Euros win, which is amazing. And it's not like Slovakia lucked into that. You could argue they were the better side in that match. Belgium did have 2 late Romelu Lukaku goals that were disallowed on replay. One was for an offside off of a back header on a corner or a set piece, and the other was for a handball, but it wasn't Lukaku's hand. It was I forget his name, but they came coming down the wing. Kind of his hand helped kind of push the ball in his favor then he sent a pass over to Lukaku, who netted that goal, and so they waved it off after review. So it's kind of amazing you see those two happen, but Slovakia was really good. They're very deserving of that victory. So Slovakia wins that 1-0, and I believe they might sit atop that group. It's a fairly, you would think Belgium should run away with that group.
They're on top with Romania because Romania spit on Ukraine.
Yes, I was about to get to that. Romania.
Ukraine week.
Yeah, you should have that one queued up. Ukraine's game to you. Romania won 3-0 against Ukraine. That was their first win at the Euros in 24 years. You soccer historians would know Romania used to be kind of a power in European football. They were churning out stud after stud, and they went on a run there where they were, contending for titles. And that was kind of their golden generation. I forgot. I think Gigi is the last name of the guy who is there now, who's the son of one of the best players from those Romanian teams. So, hey, maybe look out. Maybe we could see Romania turning a corner. They really hadn't done much at all. Like I said, the first win in the Euro in 24 years since those great teams of the 80s and 90s. So we'll see if Romania can kind of turn a corner. there. Anything else Euros wise, Kamlo?
No, not really. I mean, group stage. I mean, it just kind of comes down. I think the big things to take away from group stages isn't just the wins and the losses, but it's the margin of wins, because goal differential is going to play a huge part, because it's a round robin group stage where everybody will play each other once, and ties will be decided by goal differential. So Germany winning 5-1 is huge. Romania winning 3-0 in a group where the favorite got upset in the first game is huge, right? So those goals are gonna come into play in more groups than not.
Yep. I love it. Just again, that's another thing to watch for this coming week and the next few weeks. The Euros last a while. It is, some people say it is better than the World Cup because you have so many teams that are ranked so high. Right? The World Cup, you got Slovakia at 48. There's tons of teams in the World Cup who are ranked worse than them, but Slovakia doesn't really have a shot to qualify for the World Cup because you don't get so many teams from Europe. So this is kind of their biggest games, you would argue, for Slovakia. So just another thing to look for in the coming week.
Yeah.
That's going to move us on to our next segment, which is another new sponsor we want to mention. This is our baseball segment. We've been talking about baseball a lot. We're kind of in the swing of it. We're getting All-Star voting underway. About a month out from the All-Star game itself. But our baseball segment, which is going to be sponsored by Bobo's Fine Chicken in Virginia Beach. So come visit Bobo's on Shore Drive. It's right before the Lesnar Bridge on your way to Chicks Beach. Grab some handcrafted food, some chicken, grab a beer. You got some nice beers over there, Bo does. Take it to the beach, maybe bring it to a ball game, or come in for breakfast. Get my personal favorite, which is the chicken and white cheddar biscuit. So you got the fried chicken, some slice of white cheddar, a beautiful biscuit on there. Get some breakfast fries, some Bobo sauce on the side to dip in. It's fantastic. That's my all-time favorite. But grab some Bobos, go watch a game, go to the beach. Bobos and baseball, they ain't nothing better.
Man makes a mean bird.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. So baseball-wise, I thought we'd start talking about the College World Series because there were some crazy finishes in the College World Series to kick that tournament off in Omaha. So first you got UNC. They beat UVA on Vance Honeycutt's walk-off hit 3-2 after they came back. Boy, you pointed out why pitch to Honeycutt. We watched him sting West Virginia. Just twice. Stop pitching to the dude. He's their best player.
I believe he hit a walk-off home run against West Virginia. Had the go-ahead hit to score a run in the next game against West Virginia. Then in the opening round of the College World Series, I understand that he was 0 for 4, but a guy that good, that means he's due.
Yeah,
he's been the most clutch player in college baseball this year. Do not throw to him in that spot. You literally lucked out on the batter before by getting a pop-up. There's a man on third, 1 out. You get the pop-up. There's now 2 outs. Man on third still. 1 run wins. Pitch around him. Just intentionally. Actually, don't even just pitch around. Intentionally walk him and go get the next guy. And if that next guy beats you, he beats you. You cannot let Honeycutt beat you. He's a first-round pick, too. In college, those guys are too good. They're not. Yes. The dude's batting probably like 360. Like you have to walk him and get around him, and that made 0 sense to me.
Yeah. After that, you had another crazy. Maybe this is the craziest game of them all. Was the Tennessee-Florida State game. Tennessee, they're the number 1 team in the country, number 1 ranked team. They were down 9-4, and then at one point they found themselves down 11-7. But they came back to win 12-11. They scored 4 runs in the 9th inning. Dylan Dreiling delivered the walk-off single to win the game. But leadoff man Christian Moore hit for the cycle. By the 6th inning, he got the cycle. Right? How crazy this game was. It's the first cycle at a College World Series since 1956, which is mind-blowing. He also added another double in the 9th as part of that rally, and he finished the game 5 for 6. Right? Which is just an amazing feat. And so good for Christian Moore. That may be the performance of the week. Double or cycle by the 6th inning. That's like unheard of. Next, you had Kentucky taking out NC State. Kentucky's Nicholson hit a game-tying homer in the 9th. And then Mitchell Daly for Kentucky hit a walk-off homer in the 10th right after that to down the Wolfpack, which is again, crazy. These things are all happening in like, couple days span. And then last one, Texas A&M, they robbed a go-ahead home run in the 9th inning to beat Florida, which again, that's like unheard of. These are all things you could watch entire year of baseball and not see one of these happen. And all these things happened in like succession. So it's been an amazing College World Series so far. We're on a couple teams have been eliminated already. So we're down to 5 or 6 teams I think we're at.
We're at there should be 5 teams, but Kentucky, Florida was supposed to play tonight. They're playing tomorrow. So there will be 4 teams after tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
They play at 11 a.m.
So who's left? You got Tennessee's left.
Tennessee, Florida State plays tomorrow at 3, and then Texas A&M plays the winner of Kentucky, Florida.
Okay. Yeah. So Texas A&M is really the one in the driver's seat.
Texas A&M and Tennessee. And Florida has Florida State lost?
Yeah, we just said they
Florida
lost
State's
to
got one
Tennessee.
loss, yes. So Tennessee and Texas A&M are the ones in the driver's seat.
Okay.
They have no losses. They're definitely. I mean, Tennessee's year 57-12.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. But that's really, the biggest thing when you get to Omaha is, how long can we go without getting a loss? Because I mean, obviously, the object is to always win the game, duh. But as we know, in sports, you win some, you lose some, right? But at the College World Series, that loss is huge because of the double elimination format. One, it means you're not gone, but it also means your margin of error is not there anymore.
Yeah,
so when you go as far as you can go undefeated, you just put so much more pressure on your opponent, and you have so much margin of error.
The biggest issue is your pitching staff. College pitching staffs typically aren't deep. You typically have 2 starters that are really, really good, and then you kind of piece together from there. So the depth of some of these teams is going to be put to the test once you get that one loss. But there is a team that I do love that has one loss that I think can make some noise. They might just get smoked in this next game because they might be running out of pitching. But Florida State has the hitting to keep going. It's hard to say that when you get to postseason baseball because good pitching beats good hitting. But in college, their lineup is crazy deep. We talked about Tibbs before. He's got over 94 runs batted in this year in college, which is insane. I mean, think about it. You play 70 games at the most. And he's got 94 runs batted in.
Yeah.
He was the ACC Player of the Year. Their lineup is lethal. So watch out for Florida State. I think Florida State's going to beat Tennessee and stay alive.
Yeah, I like it. Moving on to the majors, right? Like we said, we're about a month out from the MLB All-Star Game. Paul Skeens, we talked about him earlier. He improved to 4-0 this week. He has a 2.29 ERA. He pitched 6 innings, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts in the Pirates' victory over the Reds on Monday. So he's on a heater. Shohei Ohtani, who may be the best player in the world, he's just mashing it, Snail. He homered twice on Sunday for the Dodgers as they beat the Royals 3-0. But the bigger story of that game was Mookie Betts, who is, I think, could retire now and be a Hall of Famer. He's phenomenal. If you look at everything he's accomplished in his career, all of his numbers, all the positions he's played, and how great he's been defensively, I would say he's a Hall of Famer if he retires now. But he got hit by a pitch on his hand. Not sure. No, he's got one. But he's out 6 to 8 weeks because he broke his hand after getting hit by a fastball. So that's not good. He was playing shortstop this year. It was phenomenal. Should have been the starting shortstop for the NL All-Star team. But he's out. Our Washington Nationals, they are on a heater. Right? They've won 8 of 9 games as of Monday, which includes sweeps of the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins. And that puts the Nats in a tie for the 3rd wild card spot with the Giants as of this recording. So that's amazing. A team that really no expectations coming into this year, that, this is like the best case scenario, to have them contend at all for any playoff berth. they've been playing really good baseball right now. It's really cool to see. Davey Martinez, still the manager down there in DC, doing a great job. Alec Boehm, who may even be the starter for the All-Star team as the third baseman for the Phillies, he had a 2-run double in the 11th inning as the Phillies took out your Baltimore Orioles, Comlo, on Friday night 5-3 in Baltimore. That's was a pretty marquee matchup over the weekend. Two of, arguably the favorites to win the World Series going at it in Charm City, right, is Baltimore.
Yes, sir.
Next, we got the Yankees. They scored 3 runs in the 8th inning to take a 3-2 lead over the Royals on Thursday. But Clay Holmes blew his 4th save of the season, and KC scored 2 runs on Michael Garcia's walk-off double in the 9th to avoid being swept by the Bronx Bombers. And my last baseball thing is out of San Diego with the Padres. Rookie Jackson Merrill became the youngest player ever to hit a walk-off home run in a multi-homer game when he took deep the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas A's Mason Miller in the bottom of the 9th on Wednesday for a 5-4 Fathers win. Now, Mason Miller, if you're not familiar, baseball fans, has been arguably the best pitcher in baseball, regardless of starter relief pitcher. He's been so dominant. So this kid, Jackson Merrill, to take him deep is crazy for that 5-4 win. And it was the first Padres sweep of the season. First time they swept anyone. So I thought that was kind of cool. Anything I missed?
Yeah, it's June and it's Kyle Schwarber's month. That he just goes on an absolute tear every single June. Just the last 2 weeks of baseball. I mean, I know it's June 18th as of right now, but the last 2 weeks of baseball, Kyle Schwarber's hit 6 home runs and is batting 362.
Yep.
He loves the month of June.
Weather's warm, balls flying, all that stuff. Kamlo?
I got a baseball question for you. It came up at work a couple days ago, and it really got me thinking, and it also got me checking box scores. A guy that I work with, he likes to like throw like tiny little like prop bet, not even prop bets. He likes to throw in like tiny little like parlay bets on baseball. And he'll always like ask for people's opinion. His new thing has been to like throw $1 on a parlay where he picks 3 games and there can't be a home run in any of those games. And he was like, man, I put $1 on this and it's going to pay out like $6,000. And I was like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So that's something that it's something that I've just been like paying attention to. So like, I'll like find him at work and be like, all right, what are the teams? What are the games? And like, those are the games that I'll like make a point to like go out of my way to either watch or check every time there's a home run.
Yeah. Check
First off, through God, all things are possible. So jot that down.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to. I mean, to maybe help him out. I don't think that will ever happen. But check the wind and at certain stadiums like Chicago and San Francisco. Those are.
I would just check the matchups.
Yeah, it's more. I would say it's more based off of conditions and ballpark.
But like when was it? It was Monday. He did it, and I checked, and there was one game on the entire schedule that didn't have a home run in it.
Yeah, I mean, guys now are told
all they're trying to do is hit homers. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you strike out. Take
so
your
my question: do you guys think it's possible, or is it just
you heard my
sucker
answer,
bet?
Mac? You heard my answer.
I mean, is it just It's through God, all things are possible.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Just imagine
you have to have so many things go right for that to happen.
Imagine making that bet, and you just pick the one game wrong, or you pick all. Let's say there is a night where there's 3 games without a home run,
but you don't have the game,
and you don't have those 3 games.
That's why it's a fool's errand.
That's why the house always wins, baby.
You said drink responsibly, gamble responsibly.
Yes, gamble responsibly.
I guess one last notes before we move on, not to end the show on a downer, but we have lost two absolute legends in Americana sports lore this past week. The great Jerry West passed away. Boy, you just talked about him as favorite point guards.
My guy.
But he just passed away. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame 3 times.
Yes.
Was going to get inducted a 3rd time later this year.
So I guess statue in Morgantown. I think he's the most impactful West Virginian ever, I believe.
Yeah.
What he has done. And he's one of the most impactful guys in the sport of basketball.
Yes. So yeah, that was sad to see. And as we're recording this, news broke that Willie Mays just passed away. Willie Mays arguably is the greatest baseball player of all time. I think he doesn't get enough run in that conversation.
I think he is.
I would argue he is. But I'm not saying he's the best ever. I can make an argument that he is the best ever. Yeah. There's a lot of things that go in there. One stat I have that I've always used to promote Andrew Jones is that Willie Mays is one of, I think, 4 or 5 guys ever to have over 400 home runs and 10 Gold Gloves. And the other people are Ken Griffey Jr., Mike Schmidt, and Andrew Jones.
Yeah, and think about that. Over 400 home runs with those numbers. He has 660 home runs.
Yes. He was a phenomenal player. A lot in his prime. He was competing almost an indirect rivalry because, different leagues, but with Mickey Mantle, sharing the same city, right? He was on the New York Giants. Mantle was on the Yankees, playing the same position in center field, and they were always kind of competing with each other. In a lot of ways, Mays got overlooked by Mantle. Maybe it's because the switch hitting a Mantle that kind of took precedent. But whatever it was, Mays oftentimes got overlooked. And Willie Mays is very, very possible that he is the best baseball player that's ever lived. And he just passed away. So that was kind of sad to see and hear about that. But that happened as we're on the air right now. So I thought that was worth mentioning. Again, not to end the show on a downer, but those 2 guys deserve to be talked about. Anything else before we wrap things up?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's just, it's these are 2 players in their respective sports that I think that the loss of these legacies is something that can be felt and mourned and respected throughout the sport, because they're 2 names that I think are just universally accepted as not just like players that rep the jersey, right? They're sports icons, right? They're legends. I think that their respective communities should mourn them, and maybe look up a highlight or 2, because they were if you don't know about them, learn about them. We want the show to be about, you learn something new every time you come here. Well, do us a favor. If you don't know about Jerry West or Willie Mays, do yourself the favor and look up some of their highlights, because they were electric players, transcendent players.
Yes.
That deserve to have their memories lived on, not just in the Hall of Fame, but just in moments of greatness, right?
Yeah, I love Joe Mazzulla. He was asked about Jerry West, obviously, with the West Virginia connection, and Joe Mazzulla's his comments on it were amazing. He basically, because usually, when something like that happens, you kind of like how great they were as a person, as a player, everything. Mazzulla gave such an honest, great story about how Jerry West chewed him out when he was at West Virginia his junior year because he wasn't playing well enough. And then Mazzulla went to Jerry West's house in L.A. To go to it was like a UCLA camp, like in the summer, and Joe Mazzulla missed breakfast, like overslept, missed breakfast, and Jerry West chewed him out again and basically told him, "You're not being competitive enough." And now look, Joe Mazzulla is now an NBA champion. He was like, I credit Jerry West with like my attitude, like everything he taught me how to be a person.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta love someone enough to say no, or love someone enough to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Crack that whip.
Yeah. But that's going to do it for us here on What Caught My Eye. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Main & Co., Bobo's Fine Chicken, and One Legacy Title and Escrow. As always, follow us on our socials at WCME_sports on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Go to our website, WCMEsports.com. for updates and links to see us on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify. As always, for the boy, Stephen Vesci, for the man, Stephen Comlow, I am the coach, Nick Vesci. Remember, be decent to each other. Take care, Guatemala. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.